The wedding dress felt like a shroud. Vivian Mercer stood before the ornate mirror in the bridal suite, staring at a stranger wrapped in white silk and imported lace. At 27, she had imagined her wedding day countless times: flowers, laughter, a groom who looked at her with love. Instead, she was about to marry a man who despised her very name. Caleb Thornton had made his intentions crystal clear during their single pre-wedding meeting. His steel-blue eyes had been cold as glacier ice, his handsome face carved from granite. "This marriage is not about affection, Miss Mercer. It is about justice. Your father destroyed my family. Now I will take everything he values most, starting with you." Vivian had wanted to refuse. Had wanted to throw his contract in his face and walk away. But her father's empire was crumbling, debts mounting, employees facing unemployment. Caleb's offer was simple: marry him for 1 year, and he would absorb Mercer Industries' debts, saving thousands of jobs. The alternative was total destruction. So here she stood, sacrificing herself on the altar of her father's sins. The ceremony was held at Thornton Manor, a sprawling estate that spoke of generations of wealth and power. Guests filled the grand ballroom, society elites who whispered behind gloved hands about the unexpected union between bitter rivals. Vivian walked down the aisle alone. Her father had been forbidden to attend, Caleb's first act of humiliation. She kept her chin high, refusing to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. Caleb waited at the altar, devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders and commanding height. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. Under different circumstances, Vivian might have found him breathtaking. Under these circumstances, she found him terrifying. Their vows were spoken with cold precision. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Caleb's kiss was brief and mechanical, a stamp of ownership rather than affection. The reception passed in a blur of forced smiles and whispered speculation. Vivian played her role perfectly, the gracious bride hiding a broken heart beneath composed features. When midnight finally arrived, Caleb guided her toward the manor's east wing, the private quarters they would now share. "Your rooms are through there." He gestured toward a heavy oak door. "Mine are across the hall. We will maintain separate spaces." "Of course." Vivian kept her voice steady. "I would expect nothing else from a marriage built on hatred." Something flickered in Caleb's eyes, surprise, perhaps, at her directness. "You understand your position here, then?" "I understand that I am a trophy in your revenge fantasy." She met his gaze unflinchingly. "But I am not my father, Mr. Thornton. Whatever sins he committed, I had no part in them. You benefited from them. Every privilege you enjoyed, every opportunity you received, all built on my family's suffering. And you believe punishing me will somehow heal your wounds?" Caleb stepped closer, close enough that Vivian could smell his cologne, something woody and masculine that made her pulse quicken despite her anger. "I believe," he said quietly, "that justice requires balance. Your father took everything from me. Now I take from him. Including his daughter's freedom. Including his daughter's freedom." They stood in charged silence, inches apart, the air between them crackling with hostility and something else, something dangerous that Vivian refused to name. "Get some rest." Caleb stepped back abruptly, as if the proximity had burned him. "Tomorrow we begin the performance of a happy marriage. Public appearances, society events, the complete charade. You will smile and play the devoted wife, or the consequences for your father's remaining assets will be severe." "And in private?" His expression hardened. "In private, we are strangers sharing a house. Nothing more." He disappeared into his quarters, leaving Vivian alone in the corridor. She entered her assigned rooms, beautifully appointed, luxurious beyond anything she had experienced. A gilded cage designed to remind her constantly of her captor's power. Vivian sank onto the enormous bed, finally allowing tears to fall. She had married a man who wanted to destroy everything she came from. A man whose hatred was so complete that he had restructured his entire life around vengeance. But beneath his cruelty, she had glimpsed something unexpected. A flicker of heat when their eyes met. A tension in his jaw when she stood too close. A hunger quickly suppressed but undeniably present. Caleb Thornton hated her. But he also wanted her. And Vivian suspected that contradiction would prove more dangerous than any revenge scheme he could devise. Living together as hostile strangers proved impossible. The manor was enormous, yet Vivian encountered Caleb constantly, at breakfast where silence stretched like a battlefield, in corridors where their bodies passed too close, in the library where they both retreated to escape each other and found themselves trapped together instead. Every interaction crackled with friction. "You left dishes in the sink," Caleb observed coldly one morning. "The staff will handle it." The staff should not have to clean up after a grown woman who cannot manage basic responsibility. Perhaps if my husband had not fired my personal assistant as part of his petty revenge, I would be more organized. Their arguments were frequent and fierce, but beneath the hostility, something else simmered. Vivian caught Caleb watching her when he thought she was not looking. She felt his eyes trace her figure when she descended the stairs in evening wear for their required public appearances, and she was not immune either. Caleb Thornton was infuriatingly attractive. His sharp intelligence, his commanding presence, the way his rare genuine smiles transformed his severe features, all of it affected her more than she wanted to admit. 3 weeks into their marriage, a business crisis forced them to travel together to Chicago. The hotel had made an error, only one suite available, despite Caleb's explicit instructions for separate accommodations. "I will sleep on the couch," he said tightly. "Do not be ridiculous. The bed is enormous. We are adults." They maintained careful distance that first night, Vivian on the far left edge, Caleb on the far right, an ocean of Egyptian cotton between them, but something shifted in the darkness. "Why did your mother never intervene?" Vivian asked quietly. "In your father's feud with mine?" Caleb was silent so long she thought he would not answer. "She died. Because of what your father did." The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" "The financial ruin your father engineered, it destroyed more than our company. My mother had a heart condition. The stress, the humiliation, watching everything she had helped build crumble, her heart gave out 6 months after the bankruptcy." Vivian's chest constricted with genuine grief. "Caleb, I did not know." "Of course you did not. Your father probably celebrated his victory while my mother was being buried." She reached across the darkness, her hand finding his. "I am sorry. Truly sorry. No child should lose their mother that way." Caleb's fingers tightened around hers, the first voluntary touch they had shared. "Why are you kind to me?" His voice was rough. "I have treated you terribly. I married you to punish you. Because cruelty only breeds more cruelty. And because," she hesitated. "Because I do not believe you are as heartless as you pretend." "You are wrong about that." "Am I?" They turned toward each other in the darkness. Vivian could barely see his face, but she felt his breath, felt the heat radiating from his body, felt the magnetic pull that had been building for weeks. "This is a terrible idea," Caleb whispered. "I know. I am supposed to hate you. I know." "Vivian," he kissed her. He kissed her. It was nothing like their cold wedding ceremony kiss. This was fire and desperation, weeks of suppressed attraction finally exploding. Caleb's hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer. Vivian gasped against his mouth, her body arching into his. Then he pulled away abruptly, breathing hard. "This cannot happen." His voice was ragged. "You are my enemy's daughter. And you are my husband. A husband who married you for revenge. Do not forget that." He left the bed, retreating to the couch as originally planned. Vivian lay alone in the darkness, her lips still burning from his kiss, her body aching with unfulfilled desire. Whatever this was between them, it was far more complicated than revenge. The Chicago trip changed everything. Back at the manor, Vivian threw herself into research. She needed to understand the full story, not her father's sanitized version, but the truth about what had destroyed the Thornton family. What she discovered made her sick. Her father had not simply outmaneuvered a business rival. He had engaged in deliberate, malicious sabotage, forged documents, bribed officials, stolen intellectual property. The Thornton bankruptcy had been engineered with surgical precision, designed to cause maximum suffering. And it had killed Caleb's mother. Vivian confronted her father at his diminished offices, the contract marriage her only leverage over the man who had raised her. "You destroyed them deliberately," she said flatly. "You stole their patents and framed them for fraud." Richard Mercer's face paled. "Where did you hear?" "It does not matter where. I want the truth. Did you know Eleanor Thornton died because of what you did?" Her father's silence was confession enough. "I was protecting our family," he finally said. "The Thorntons were competition. It was business. It was murder." Vivian's voice shook. "You killed a woman and orphaned her children for market share. You do not understand how these things work." "I understand perfectly." She stood, looking at her father with new eyes. "I understand that I married a man whose hatred is completely justified. I understand that everything I believed about our family was a lie." She walked out without looking back. That evening, she found Caleb in the library, staring into the fireplace with haunted eyes. "I spoke with my father today," Vivian said quietly. "I know everything now. What he really did. How your mother really died." Caleb turned, his expression guarded. And I am sorry. Not as an apology for him, he does not deserve that. But as acknowledgement that your anger is righteous. What he did was unforgivable. You would condemn your own father? I would condemn anyone who destroys lives for profit. Vivian moved closer. "I am not my father, Caleb. I never knew what he was capable of until today. But now that I know, I choose your truth over his lies." Something cracked in Caleb's careful composure. "Why would you do that?" "Because truth matters. Because justice matters." She paused. "Because you matter. Vivian. I am not asking you to forgive him. I am not asking you to abandon your revenge. I am simply telling you that I am not your enemy. I never was." Caleb stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. The kiss was different this time, still desperate, but with tenderness beneath the heat. His hands cradled her face like she was precious rather than property. "I do not know how to do this," he admitted against her lips. "I spent years planning revenge. I never planned for you." "Then stop planning." Vivian pulled back to meet his eyes. "Just feel." That night, they did not sleep in separate rooms. Caleb led Vivian to his quarters, the inner sanctum she had never been permitted to enter. The space was masculine but warm, filled with books and artwork that revealed depths she had not suspected. "Are you certain?" he asked, his voice rough. "Once we cross this line." "I have never been more certain of anything." They undressed each other slowly, years of suppressed longing making every touch electric. Caleb's hands traced her curves with reverent hunger, his lips following paths that made her gasp and tremble. "You are beautiful," he murmured against her throat. "I tried not to see it. Tried to remember only hatred. But you were always beautiful." "Show me," Vivian breathed. "Show me everything you have been hiding." Their lovemaking was passionate and profound, not the cold transaction of their wedding night, but a genuine union of 2 people who had found each other against impossible odds. Caleb worshipped her body while whispering confessions she never expected. "I wanted you from the first moment I saw you. In that boardroom, when we negotiated the contract, I hated myself for how much I wanted you. I wanted you too, Vivian admitted. Even when I feared you. You should have feared me. I planned terrible things. What things? He paused, pulling back to meet her eyes. The revenge was not just marriage, Vivian. I was going to systematically destroy every remaining Mercer asset. Leave your family with nothing, just as my family was left. And now? Caleb's expression was raw with vulnerability. Now I do not know what I want anymore. Except you. I want you more than vengeance. They came together again, tenderness replacing urgency. Vivian surrendered completely, trusting this man who had begun as her enemy and somehow become her sanctuary. Afterward, tangled in silk sheets, Caleb held her close and spoke into the darkness. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. The revenge plan, it is already in motion. Documents filed, assets frozen, legal proceedings initiated. I started the process before we married. Vivian's blood ran cold. What are you saying? I am saying that even if I wanted to stop it now, I do not know if I can. Vivian left the next morning. She packed a single bag and walked out of Thornton Manor without looking back. The betrayal was too complete. Caleb had seduced her while simultaneously destroying her family. 3 weeks of silence followed. Vivian stayed with a college friend, ignoring Caleb's increasingly desperate messages. She watched from a distance as news broke about Mercer Industries facing legal action, the revenge scheme unfolding exactly as planned. Then something unexpected happened. Caleb Thornton held a press conference. Vivian watched on her laptop as he stood before cameras and made a stunning announcement. I am withdrawing all legal proceedings against Mercer Industries. The vendetta I pursued was based on legitimate grievances, but revenge has cost me something far more valuable than justice. It cost me the woman I love. His eyes found the camera directly. Vivian, I know you are watching. I chose hatred for 10 years, and it made me hollow. You showed me that there is another path. I am choosing that path now. I am choosing love over revenge, healing over destruction, future over past. He paused, his composure cracking. Please come home. Vivian arrived at the manor that evening. Caleb met her at the door, his face drawn with sleepless nights and desperate hope. You meant it, she said quietly. You actually withdrew everything. I meant every word. He took her hands. The revenge died the moment I realized I loved you. I just needed to finally admit it to myself. You love me? Completely. Desperately. In a way I never believed myself capable of. He cupped her face. I married you to punish your family. Somewhere along the way, you became my family, the only one that matters. Vivian kissed him, tears streaming down her cheeks. I love you too. Even when I should not. Even when it makes no sense. Then stay. Not because of any contract, but because you choose to. Because we choose each other. Yes. She pulled him closer. I choose you. 6 months later, they renewed their vows in a small ceremony at the manor's garden. This time, Vivian's dress did not feel like a shroud, it felt like wings. Caleb's vows made her weep. I married you for revenge and found redemption instead. You taught me that the heart's capacity for love is greater than its capacity for hatred. I vow to spend every day proving I deserve the grace you have given me. Vivian's response was simple. I married a stranger who became my home. I vow to love you without condition, trust you without reservation, and remind you every day that we are more than the sins of our fathers. They sealed their vows with a kiss that was everything their first kiss should have been, tender, passionate, full of promise. Later that night, making love in their shared bedroom, Caleb whispered against her skin. Thank you for seeing past the monster I was becoming. Thank you for choosing to become something else. Their marriage had begun in darkness. It had grown through conflict, pain, and grudging attraction. It had nearly shattered under the weight of revenge. But from that wreckage, something extraordinary had bloomed, a love that proved even the most damaged hearts could heal. Some marriages begin with love. Theirs had to fight for it. And that made it more precious than either of them could have imagined.